Hi designers, it's Haley with Silver Moon Design School. Today I'm going to show you how to create a coffee bag and a coffee cup mock-up that you can apply your own graphics to, so you have really nice, stunning mock-ups that you can render in a bunch of different angles and give your clients a really good idea of how your packaging design will look before it goes to production. I'm only using Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Dimension, so follow along step by step. I'll show you how to do it. Let's go. Alright, so I have a fresh Illustrator file open. I have placed in my reference image on a layer that I've called reference, and I have locked it. And then I've also created a layer above called art, and I'm going to leave that one unlocked because I need it to work on. So first thing I'm going to do is create the coffee cup because that's the easiest thing. So I am going to zoom in on this, turn on my rulers, grab the rectangle shape and draw a rectangle around the top. I just want those top corners to align with the outside edge, because all I'm doing is creating a center point with that ruler. From here, I'm going to go ahead and modify this rectangle to the shape that I want. I'm going to grab my scissors tool and snip in the center points, deleting that left side. So what I'm left with is this rectangle that I'm going to morph to the edges of the cup. So I'll turn the outline on and I will slide over here, matching that angle. I can even delete this path at the top, because I don't really need it to be covered. I want it to be hollow because it is a cup, so leaving that space open will achieve that. And then because I don't know if in the future I'll want to have a hovering kind of mock-up, or have something where you see the bottom, so I am going to come zoom in and place another anchor point right about there, and then I'll place one that's so close to the edge, because we all know that coffee cups have that inset on the bottom. And I'll select these two anchor points on the left and raise those up to create that inset. And then I'll move that anchor point over. And then the other thing I'll do is come to Object, Path, Offset Path. And this is where I'll choose what the inside of the cup should be. So 0.05 inches. Yeah, I like that. And then I'll use my scissors tool again, selecting that path. I don't need that outside line, I just need it for the inside. So I'll snip at these edges and then delete that outside path. Selecting both of those paths and clicking Command J will join them together. And then I'm just going to even out the top here so that it is straight. And what I can do is I can select both of those anchor points, go to Align, and hit Horizontal Align. It'll make that a flat parallel edge for me. And then I can bring these down a little bit and make it a little bit thinner, because this is supposed to be cardboard. I'll bring both of those points in so that it makes a really nice thin cup. And the other thing is, if we ever want to take the lid off, there is typically a lip here, right? Like a little circle. So I'll just use an ellipse tool and I'll add a circle to the edge here. And I'll use my Pathfinder to combine those. And then smooth my edge here, just rounding it. I think I'm good with that. Let's flip it to a solid fill, and then come to 3D materials and click revolve. Yay, there's our little coffee cup. I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to focus on the lid. So what I'm going to do is follow this edge here, this inside edge, and then bring out the rectangle to about there. And I'll just choose one point so that we can have a good idea of what's going on. Okay, so the first anchor point, I'm just going to line it up here, is there, and then we have another one here. So it's kind of okay, straight edge, one bump. So this will be that first edge, or that first curve, and then we need to stop. It is kind of flared, so I'll go ahead and curve that. This one kind of goes in, so I might just tuck that in and then give this a little bit of a curve. Same with this, we need to add a curve there. And then I'll flare this out. I know that I still need to add 1 or 2 more bumps here. And then an extra little flare. And then I need to create the inset too. So if I just follow this edge here, that circle starts about there. And I'll just bring these 2 lines, these 2 points, I selected shift and pulled those down to create that inset piece. And I'm going to add curves to this because these rarely have any kind of hard edges, except for the part that'll cut your fingers at the bottom. And then the other thing I need to do is make this hollow on the inside. So I'm adding 2 anchor points so that when I drag this inside line, it still keeps the edges pretty even. And you could use that same offset path hack that I used to have it really lined up if you're ever going to see the inside, but I'm not. So I'm just trying to give it enough of a shape that it doesn't distract from anything. Okay, and now I'm going to click Revolve, and you can see there is our coffee lid. So I will go ahead and put this to the side as well, since I have that. The other little thing is this oval right here, that little mouthpiece. So I'll just go ahead and use Rectangle tool, and then bring all of those in, and I'm going to bring that to the side. I am going to click Extrude, but I'm going to make the depth like so shallow, like 0.5, and I'm going to make it black. And that way I can just place that in Dimension and create that little hole, because otherwise there's really not a good way to just put that on one side. So I'm going to make it a little bit of an illusion of that. Also, this lid is black, so if I'm going to like really match it up with the example, I should probably copy that. Same with this, that is a red cup, black lid. And then I need to create the coffee holder. That's probably where you'll be putting your designs. So I will drag this back, turn off 3D materials for a minute, because I want to make sure that this fits really snug. So I'm just bringing this shape, a copy of the shape of the cup, back here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is come and create a rectangle. I'm going to follow those inside ledges, because like I said, this picture lies a little bit. It's not quite accurate. And I'm going to pull it kind of outside of the edge of the cup and then mimic that at the top here, because there is a decent gap. Then to make this look hollow, what I will also do is create 2 new rectangles here and follow the line of the cup. So I have these 2 rectangles. I'll make them different colors so you can see. So I have a rectangle that lines up with the cup here and a rectangle that lines up with the cup. I mean, not quite exact. We need a little bit of a gap, but the goal is to create that inside piece. So same with this. I want it to look like there's a little bit of a gap between the holder and the cup. So now I'm going to select all of these and go to Pathfinder and minus. And then from there, I'm going to revolve. So I'll also show you how to make coffee to go inside of it, a liquid fill. So again, making a shape. Before I forget, let me just go ahead and put this to the side. All right, creating the coffee. So what I'm going to do is bring this back to the center point. Using my scissors tool, I'm going to snip those inside guides, but I'm going to choose a point inside the cup that's a little bit lower, because I don't want the fill to be all the way to the top. I want it to have a little bit of space like it naturally would. And then using my pen tool, complete this weird shaped rectangle. The next step I'm going to do is use my pen tool and create some different anchor points. And then I'm just going to create some waves to make it look like the coffee is in Jurassic Park, like I always say. Like it's just Jurassic Parking it out there. And then when you see that I take this off, it is coffee and it's got a little bit of motion to it. If that's too drastic for you, you can always just like make these a little more subtle. But that's how I make my liquid, and we'll put the coffee to the side there. So now that we have the coffee cup done, I'm going to show you how to make the bag. So the bag is different because it has this taper. It also kind of sticks out a little bit. So how I'm going to approach this is from this angle on the side. So since I don't have a straight on angle, I am going to have to imagine it a little bit. So I'm going to make a rectangle maybe about this deep, maybe a little deeper. I'll go ahead and make this red too. Okay. And then I will use the height, and I'm going to stop right here where the seam is. I'm going to create a point on the center, and then selecting these points, bring them down to where the taper starts, and then curve those in. So now you can see this will be the basis for our shape for the side. I will continue on in a sec. All right, so I'm going to work to the side here. The first thing we're going to do is come over to 3D materials, and I'm going to click extrude. Now you can see that this is creating the depth of the shape, and I can rotate it around, kind of see what we're going for. What is a good depth? Let me bring it like really straight on and then line up with my example. Let's get a good accurate depth going. 2.4, 2.5 seems to be good. I'll just go with 2.5 so it's an even number. All right, and so now I'm going to make a copy of the shape that we just made using my scissors tool, snip at the top and then snip at the bottom center, and delete the other side, we don't need it. But now when I rotate, you'll see if I flip to outline, these will just be those pieces that extend out a little bit more. So we're going to come and do like 0.1. So these will flank each of the sides here. All right, now I'm going to create this top piece. So I am going to click and have 2.5 here. And with the height, I'm going to adjust it all the way to that seam that we had. I'm going to flip an outline so that I can trace and get this really accurate. So first I'll curve this top piece to match the reference. And then to create this little tear section, just drawing some anchor points and curving these, curving this because it is a little more organic. And then to match it on the other side, I am going to take these points, bring that in a little bit, and transform, reflect vertically. And then if we come in and we combine these, let's see what the size is. Width is 2.38. I can go tweak that back to 2.5 so it lines up with the other shape that we created. It's actually going to stick out a little bit more than the shape, but you know, we'll tweak and adjust some things in Dimension later. All right, now I'll click extrude and choose a depth of 0.03 inches. That'll give us enough of a thickness that is similar to the paper. And then also I can add a bevel here and just round those edges a little bit. So width, we're bringing it like way down. I'm also going to click bevel both sides. And the height I'll bring down too, but it just gives it that extra little softness that I think adds a nice touch. I'm also going to clean up these edges because it kind of gave us a point when I merged those shapes. So I'm just going to smooth those. So I'll take my rectangle tool. I'm just going to draw over this shape and then align these. So they're going to be red too, but just for the sake of being able to see them, we'll make them slightly lighter. We can always fix this later in Adobe Dimension. All right, and then I do need to create another rectangle. I'll make this a little bit darker so I know, like, okay, this is the line here. Cool. And then one more of those. We can duplicate it later, but just so that I can get the layout. And we also need this circle guy, this circle thingy. So I will trace that with my circle tool. Let's bring him to the side. And we've got little black circles here. All right, so little black circles. And it kind of looks like a button, but it's that smell hole. All right, so we're going to copy those, group it, duplicate, twist, group again, and then go center, center, group that together, and we'll click extrude for this too, and choose a depth of 0.03. I'm gonna bevel it. I'm gonna bring this round shape in and then bring the width down to like 5%. Maybe I'll try 10%, 10 or 11. I like that. And so now if I group this together and we click extrude and we add a bevel, you can see it's adding those shapes all at once, so we won't have to worry about that later. So I'll pick 0.03, the bevel width, I'll bring that in, the height I will also bring down, and I'm kind of just tweaking these until it looks good. I think I might take these out and do them separate though. I will select the same red shade so we get the idea of where we're going with it. And I can also choose bevel just to give it a slight softening, reduce the width to like 15–16%. I'm going to add this red to my swatches so I can change this button to that red. I'm also going to add these little like dents into this one. That's kind of the last thing I'm looking at. We can come in, we can kind of dent it. It'll look good in the end. Same with this shape, we can add that little dent in. And it helps it look like not so perfectly perfect. So if I rotate and show you, it gives us that little divot there at the bottom. And then I can even like round this, since usually the bags are kind of round and full at the bottom. That gives us that shape. I think we're ready to take all of our pieces into Dimension. But first we have to save all of these out. So highlight everything that you've created, right click, select collect for export, select as multiple assets. And here you can see all of our pieces. I'm just gonna label them really quick. Make sure they're all highlighted and then click export. All right, and that wraps up how to create the different OBJ files that we'll need. So take all of those files, put them in a safe place, and join me in part 2 where I'll show you how to put it all together.